The Chris Burger Petra Jackson Player Fund is an organisation that serves as a pillar of support to all rugby players within South Africa that sustain catastrophic, disabling and life-changing injuries while playing the sport. The Rugby Business Network is joined by the charity's marketing and events coordinator, Tori Gardner, to find out more about this amazing non-profit organisation and how businesses and individuals can get involved and offer their support. Tori, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, the fund was started in 1980. Now, for our listeners that are not too familiar with the fund or the stories of both Chris Burger and Petra Jackson, please could you give us a brief history lesson, if you will, on how the fund was established and has evolved over the last 37 years?
Okay, well, in 1980, our current chairman, Morne du Plessis, was the captain of the Western Province rugby team while they were playing a Currie Cup match in Bloemfontein. And unfortunately, one of his teammates, Chris Burger, sustained a fatal injury on the field and died in hospital afterwards. Morne du Plessis and the rest of his teammates, they set up the fund initially to support his family, and then it just developed. And then a couple of years later, in 1987, Petra Jackson also suffered a fatal injury on a rugby field outside Stellenbosch, and the Petra Jackson Fund was formed. Then they ran alongside each other for a couple of years until 1992, after the unification of South Africa and the SA Rugby Union and the SA Rugby Board. And the funds then became the Chris Burger Petra Jackson Players Fund to really make a nice tongue twister. So since the merge, we've helped over about 500 players and their families. Wow. We currently have 107 on our books who we talk to regularly. Yeah, since then we've developed very strong relationships with SA Rugby and a lot of partners along the way. We've gained the reputation of being rugby's caring hands, which we adopted as a slogan a couple of years ago. And we take that quite seriously. We want to be the first port of call for anyone who sustains a serious injury. And we want to partner the families because our help is indefinite and goes from the hospital bed until, forever.
Absolutely amazing. Well, to follow up on that, Tori, what is the objective of the charity? And could you mention what possibly the vision, the mission and the values are of the organisation?
We basically want to be an extension of the rugby community. The rugby is known for its camaraderie and its team spirit, and because our injured players sustain injuries and can no longer play the game, we don't want that to end. So we carry that past the injury. Our vision is to be an internationally recognised organisation that supports the recovery of all seriously injured players across South Africa, and we aspire to promoting safer rugby. We've done this through the Bok Smart program. Our mission is when a seriously injured rugby player, when their life is changed, we step in offering help and hope. Every aspect of that injured player's welfare is our concern, and we want to be transparent. We are constantly caring. We want to be dependable, stable, approachable and accountable. So those are our values. And having been alongside over 500 families, we have the experience and we have the networks. So we hope to make a very, very difficult journey slightly easier through that.
That's so wonderful. Well, the unfortunate players that have sustained these catastrophic injuries while playing rugby and have approached the fund for support, are they mostly from schools or at club level? And is the charity at all involved with putting in place measures to try prevent, limit or possibly even provide more awareness to these life-changing injuries?
We do have a joint initiative with SA Rugby, which is known as the Bok Smart program. It's the National Rugby Safety Program. Through that, we aim to increase awareness of injuries and try and promote safer rugby. So I actually consulted with Dr. Wayne Viljoen, who's the senior manager of Bok Smart, just to get the stats because they are ever-changing and they're doing a lot of research into this field. And his comment was that in recent years, the catastrophic injuries happen more often at a club level. However, in rare instances, they do happen at school rugby level, but these tend to be less severe than at club rugby. And although rugby injuries are still uncommon when you look at how many matches are taking place all over the world, all over the country, we still stand by the fact that one injury is too many. So So we work very hard to spread the awareness and keep people playing a smarter, safer game.
Well, it's great to hear that there are those processes being put in place. Now, Tori, you joined the charity in 2014 after previously working at the Sport Science Institute of South Africa. What attracted you to want to work for the fund? And tell us about what your role entails on a daily basis as a marketing and events coordinator.
Sports science at the time was also headed by Mornay du Plessis, so it was quite an obvious skip across the corridor. I'm incredibly passionate about sport, and I'd always been involved in sports promotion. However, it struck a chord with me that these guys ran onto the field one day and they loved the adrenaline, they loved the rush, and they loved the team spirit. And then following the injury, that is often taken away from them. It was very scary, but having been here for almost 4 years now, I've really learned a lot from our guys. They face incredible challenges that even I can't even comprehend after all this time. So they're very inspiring, and it makes your job at the end of the day very fulfilling. So my day-to-day job is basically keeping the Players Fund at the forefront of everyone's mind, so that if there is any extra budget floating around in a CSI budget or sponsorship, that hopefully, if you're in the rugby environment, will come our way. I do that by having close relations with the media, keep an eye on our social media platforms, specifically Facebook and Twitter, and keep our website up to date. We, as a team of 3 of us in the office, we conceptualize and carry out our own fundraising events, as well as partnering already established events like the Cape Town 10s or even the 7s we've been getting involved in as well. As a team, we looked into the glass ball of the future because times are very tough at the moment, and we had to think of a life without the fund, and it was unfathomable. Our 107 guys and their families couldn't live without us, so we have to keep doing what we're doing.
Most definitely. Well, for those that do know about the Chris Berger Petra Jackson Player Fund, they would also know that for many years the charity has had the backing of Springbok players. How vital is it to have them show their support, and in what ways do they mostly get involved?
Yeah, well, we are the official charity of the Springboks, which we're very honoured to be associated as. We consider ourselves very lucky. They give us the support through an annual grant, which helps with half of our budget per year. And we also have the full Springbok team and management attend a function once a year, which is our biggest fundraising platform. That used to be the For the Love of the Game, but in more present years it's become the Springbok Braai, which is a little bit more less formal. So players get involved whenever we give them a call saying there's an injured player in hospital or at home. They never disappoint us. We're very lucky to have that backing, and also gives us credibility within the rugby environment.
That is so true. Now, as the fund's marketing and events coordinator, Tori, how important has networking been for you and your colleagues when it comes to trying to generate funds for the seriously injured players and setting up other planned projects and initiatives? It's
crucial for the environment we're in. We consider ourselves an exclusive club that, so to speak, that no one wants to become a member of. However, having said that, many players who run onto the field understand that it is a contact sport, rugby, and there is a risk. So at any given time, they could be the ones making the call to the fund for assistance. With this as an unspoken reality, we have grown confident that people are quietly aware of us. If we ever reach out for help, they're always very willing to give it to us, be it hosting a quiz night, donations, or even just involving us in events that they have, setting auction items aside for our cause and all sorts. So, yeah, it is crucial, and we keep plugging away at it.
Well, through the networking that you have done, Tori, the fund has some amazing associate organizations on board. Could you mention some of them, and is it simple or rather difficult to try and raise funds, and who do you often have to rely on for support?
Yeah, we're very lucky to have a lot of the Springbok brands behind us, like Sogo Sun, who give us value in kind for accommodation and venue hire. We also have a lot of medical businesses, private hospital and rehab centres that make our job a little bit easier by reducing our bottom line through sponsorship and discounts. We also have great relationships with international organisations. In New Zealand, there's the New Zealand Rugby Foundation. In the UK, we have the Matt Hampson Foundation, the RFU Injured Players Foundation, as well as Team George. So our branches go quite far afield, and we have to do that in order to keep it diverse and to bring everyone involved. But it is tricky. rugby. So we do have to constantly think out the box and make relationships that are mutually beneficial to both us and sponsors.
Mutually beneficial partnerships, always the right way to go. Now, Tori, currently there is a crowdfunding campaign which has been set up for a 23-year-old. His name is Lifa Hlongwa, who sustained a serious injury on the rugby field. Could you share his story with us?
Yeah, Lifa really is a serious champion. So he sustained his injury on the 23rd of June while playing for a club in Durban. Him and his opponent clashed, and his opponent was actually unconscious on the field. And he actually got a bit more attention, which was quite scary because Lifa couldn't feel anything from his neck down. But fast forward a couple of months, the rugby community in Durban really clubbed together to ensure that he did have the best care possible. Life Healthcare, which is a private hospital group here, sponsored 3 months of intensive rehab for him. He's making phenomenal progress. He actually sent me, he's able to walk with crutches at the moment, which is always, we consider a very lucky outcome. It is still challenging, and we basically met with Lifa, and from the get-go, he was just driven to be a pillar of support for future players and current recipients to try and promote them. And it was very touching for us that in a very difficult time, all he could think about was other people. So we set up this crowd fund. We've set a target of 50,000 to reach before the middle of January. We're currently on just over 11,000 Rand. It's basically using his story to showcase what we do and the real impact that these injuries have on the lives of our players.
Well, it's fantastic to hear that he is on the road to recovery. But for those who are in a position to offer their financial support, where should they be going to make a donation? You've mentioned what the target is, but what will the generated funds be used for?
So with this specific fund, it will go to the purchasing of equipment for either future recipients or ones that need an upgrade now. So just to give you an idea, a motorized wheelchair can cost anything between 80 and 250,000 Rand. And a lot of the time, pressure relief is needed in the evenings. So electrical hospital beds, which cost between 30 and 50,000 Rand. So even just a manual wheelchair can get to 100,000 Rand. This is just a small amount that we're aiming for, but I think through that as well, we're hoping people become aware of us. You can find all that information on our Facebook page, which is very active, and you can see the video of Lifa, find out his unique story, as well as other recipients of ours as well. And then in 2018, we are going to be pushing hard to create a trickle effect of regular donors. And on our website, under the Get Involved tab, you can find a pay fast platform where you can pledge 50 Rand a month. Something as small as that can make a huge difference for us.
Without a doubt, could not agree more. Tori, is it only financial support which is required for people in the same situation as Lifa, or is there some sort of support that is being provided for injured players in terms of their psychological and emotional well-being?
Basically, if anyone comes into contact with a seriously injured player, it's still keeping them involved. The immediate reaction is that anyone who sustains a serious injury that changes their life, you don't talk about rugby. However, they all still are very passionate about the game. So for anyone else interacting with people, just still talk about rugby, still treat them like normal people, and carry on regardless. Our role is hugely supportive, from financial to emotional and psychological. So, yeah, it is complete well-being of that individual that we care of.
Brilliant. Well, finally, Tori, the Springbok Braai, which was formerly known as For the Love of the Game, a charity banquet, as you mentioned, is now one of the fund's most popular and well-supported fundraising events. However, what are some of the other initiatives that are coming up in 2018 that our Rugby Business Network members all around the world need to be aware of, and how can they offer their support?
So we are involved with the popular Cape Town 10s, which is happening in February next year. We're also involved with Kelvin Grove. They're hosting a dinner with the Stormers in March, as well as a Bowls Day in April. We have, as you mentioned, the Springbok Braai, which is most likely going to be happening in October, as well as regular fundraising events on our Facebook page and auction items that we post up there. And we are looking to actually go further afield and partner with UK-based organisations, because we know there's an ever-growing number of rugby supporters and rugby players going into the UK. So we'll be looking at that. So once we have that in order, we'll certainly be in touch with you.
Oh, great. And we'll be looking to offer our support as and where we can. Well, Tori, thank you for taking the time to chat about the fantastic work that is being done at the Chris Berger Petra Jackson Players Fund. And the Rugby Business Network wishes the charity many more years of providing that much needed assistance to players that have sustained life-changing injuries while playing the sport that we all love.
Great. Thank you so much for the chance.